to another episode of As Real as They Come Dallas. I'm Jennifer Loading.
Yulia Brown.
And we are here at the Turkish Cafe. And what are we doing today, Yulia?
Well, using your husband's favorite phrase, I'm excited. So we've got John Can and Mark D'Alessandro here. And these men are absolutely phenomenal. If you love watching movies, all the cool stuff, these guys do it. So, gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Thanks
for having us.
Thank you for being here, and we would love to learn more about what you do, how you came about to doing that, and
Who wants to go first?
who wants to go?
Yeah, tell us how you got into the business. That's what we want to know.
We
John?
have very different stories about
right,
that.
I love it.
All right.
Yeah.
I started out, my first stunt was actually on a play in high school called Jesus Christ Superstar. And my acting teacher knew that I wanted to do stunt work, and he asked me if I would figure out how to do the hanging scene for Judas. And so I doubled the kid who was playing Judas in the play, and got really hooked on theater at that time, really doing, getting out and entertaining. And I went up a 14-foot platform behind a scrim on the stage, so it was just a silhouette. And I had a parachute harness on, and the noose was hanging down sideways. The bottom of the noose was open, but you couldn't see that from the angle in the audience. So I took the noose and I put it over my neck, and I clipped into the harness. And I stepped off the 14-foot platform. Everybody thought it was just going to go dark when I put the noose on. They didn't know I was going to step off.
Oh my God.
And so a lot of people peed in their seats in the auditorium that night. It was very interesting. But that was kind of where I got my first taste of it. And then as soon as I got out of high school, I went to Los Angeles to pursue my career. I went to my guidance counselor in high school, and he said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to be a stuntman." He said, "No, really, what do you want to do?" And so I figured he wasn't going to help me. And postulated the place where the most stunt people in the world was Los Angeles. So that's where I went, and went to Kahana Stunt School to learn how to do my thing, and was there for quite a while. And after that, I got adopted by a gentleman named Greg Elam. And Greg was Richard Pryor's stunt double. He was the guy who jumped off the skyscraper in Superman 2 with the skis on his feet, doubling for Pryor. And that's when I figured out that going to a stunt school wasn't going to get me in the business, because nobody cared whether I went to a stunt school or not, because it's a family business.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the circus. You don't just you can't educate your way in. You can't. There's only 3 ways I know of to get into a family business. That's either get born into it, marry into it, or find somebody to adopt you. So I was adopted by Greg Elam, and from there it just went. Everything snowballed. He started putting me in for shows like Tango and Cash, and that's where I met Mark, and worked on Predator 2, and then he brought me into Walker, Texas Ranger here, and we've been blowing and going ever since.
Yeah,
it's been a
so
good
fun.
ride.
Wow.
We even do action acting seminars.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, we teach a lot of kids.
Carry
and
it on. Pass it on.
A lot of training.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what I love.
Awesome.
Yeah, John's amazing. He actually helped me train High Falls. The most amazing guy.
Phenomenal.
He's like when I say he's Chuck Norris double, but if you double somebody once, you can take it and run.
Okay.
So he did double Chuck Norris. So I actually doubled Al Pacino once, Robert De Niro once.
Awesome.
How I got in the business. Okay. I was in Mexico. I had 2 degrees, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was selling resort properties. And I ended up, an elevator door opened. I was going to pick up a client in Acapulco, Mexico, and it was Stallone. So I stopped the elevator, and these 2 federales said, "Uy, ¿qué pasó? No pa-" And these 2 big bodyguards, and I didn't know what was going on. So supposedly Stallone had a hit on his life, because Reagan, this is back in the 80s, said, we're going to go there and get those hostages and stuff. So Khomeini, bomb Iran, put a hit on Stallone, $1 million hit. So he was being protected. It was a big thing. They didn't want anybody to know where the production office was. Anyway, I got in the elevator. So right place, the right time, and the right people. Everything.
Divine
right?
timing.
Yeah. God's perfect timing. It's like it was a miracle. So I had a few minutes to say, okay, I always want to be a stuntman. 10 years ago, I was at Universal Studios before that time. And I was like, man, this is really cool. It'd be great to be a stuntman or an actor, but, it's impossible. I'm not going to live in L.A. I know what the business is like. I lived on the East Coast. Next thing you know, I ended up working on that live stunt show 10 years later. But, so back to Stallone in the elevator, this is how it got started. I said, hey, Sly, I love you, man. I'm a big fan of yours, and I brought the Jersey thing going. I know you went to this school with a friend of mine. My uncle graduated with you. He says, man, we used to listen to Rocky music. It pumped us up when we were playing football. And he goes, man, if I could,
I still listen to it.
I think I could be. If I could be on the show with you, it'd be unbelievable. And he goes, yeah, screw you. So I went back downstairs.
Was he chewing the little match while he was saying that?
Like Cobra. I am the disease. Yeah, you are the disease. I am the cure. Anyway, no, you're the cure. I'm the disease. Anyway, I ended up riding up that elevator, and I said, I literally was gonna, I said, I should jump off this roof. I got 2 degrees. I'm in Acapulco. They called me Gringo. It's a great job. I mean, come on. It's like I was in shape. I just got out of college football. I thought it was everything. So I get up the elevator, go back to the 9th floor, because no one's supposed to be on the 9th floor of this production. No one's supposed to know. It's all undercover. And as I got up the elevator, I met the assistant director. He said, hey, I just talked to Sly in the elevator, and I'm wondering, I live down here. I know locations. I know where to go. I know how to go. I'm the guy. They call me the Gringo. I was a little cocky at the time,
A little?
I'm
you?
the Gringo.
No.
It was. I'm usually not like that, but I came out and I said it. So next thing you know,
It's confidence.
yeah,
confidence,
it's confidence. I
right?
said this is a once in a lifetime.
Right.
And everybody used to call me Rocky, and I hated it. I played football at Sam Houston. I played football at Tarleton State. I played football in high school. Hey, you're Rocky. I said, I don't look like Rocky. I don't move like Rocky. Yeah, you do. You're Rocky. Next thing you know,
I used to get the
I'm
same
doubling
stuff.
Rocky.
Doubling Rocky. It's a wall of attraction.
And I went to Hollywood
Self-fulfilling.
because I wanted to double.
Yeah. So I go back up there. I meet the director. His name is Cosmatos, George Cosmatos. He's Italian, Greek, and he's smoking. The whole office terrible. I don't even know how. That's another long story. But the AD brought me to him and said, "Hey, this guy's a friend of Sly. You want to meet him? He'd be a good stand-in. You're not going to be a stunt double overnight. Photo double, stand-in. I'm in a helicopter. I'm going through explosions. No CGI back then.
Yeah.
We're blowing things up.
We're old school. We
Like
do
your
it for
ears
real.
were popping. You know, you got these old school guys. You got to put. So, and then I ended up coming to LA with an MGP, $10,000, and I ended up working on Rocky. Then I got a part as a Russian trainer.
Strong like bull.
Yes, strong like bull. And I had to learn Russian swear words. Anyway, and I ended up doubling Sly, doing the training sequences. And Dolph, I helped pick Dolph out because I met him in a gym. Well,
Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, Sly said, hey, I like Grace Jones' boyfriend. By then I made friends with him because Sly figured he found me, so he thought he was all that. So, and I had people want to
Be careful what stories you tell.
Yeah, I literally had people want to take me out. You know what I mean? Because they're like, you know what? You don't just come in a show and start being a photo double and a stunt double. And so
I put a hit out on him right away.
Yeah.
I wanted that job.
And here I am. Then I've been with him through the 80s, 90s, 2000. Last good show I worked with him was Rocky Balboa. That's won a Taurus Stunt Award for Rocky. And, he started to outgrow it, you know what I mean? Like the NFL, not for long. But in this case, I got a good career. And then I doubled other actors. And now I work on Fear of the Walking Dead, and, whatever. I mean, I just worked on it with Josiah Saw horror movie.
You didn't mention.
I doubled Frank Grillo and a bunch of guys.
You did mention you were on the Galaxy one.
Oh yeah, Galaxy
Quest.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I got. Remember, you'd have to see the movie, but see the movie. It's a great movie. Actually, I love that movie.
I love that movie.
That's a great
When Chris Pratt was saying, You know, I'm looking for a hard-headed woman, one that makes me feel real good. Anyway, it's great.
Oh, you're not talking about Galaxy Quest. You're talking about
Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. Galaxy Quest is a whole different movie.
So funny? Here's what's so funny. I mean, I'm not trying to brag, but I did work on Galaxy Quest.
I know you did. That's what I thought. That's what you were talking about.
You know, and when the decades, it's crazy, and you get hit in the head a lot. You know,
you get hit in the head a lot.
And I mean,
I don't get hit in the head.
It's
well,
amazing.
I did get shot in the head by Jason Sudeikis the other day, so that was fun. 3 squibs right here on the side of my head. I was hurting for days after that. Felt like somebody hit me with a ball-peen hammer. It was loads of fun.
Well, John also, I mean, the catches, especially as you get older, which we aren't, because we could still run with the young guys, I guess. But anyway, his deal is he can do Shakespeare. Just do a little Shakespeare, John. Just
you can do Shakespeare too.
Well, I could do.
You just have to apply yourself.
But I mean, the guy's an action actor, so it's unbelievable. He's unbelievable.
I don't want to bore the listeners with Shakespeare right now.
Come on,
no
just give us like Macbeth. One piece of Macbeth.
I don't know Macbeth.
A hero was born.
Give us a piece of
death
what you have.
About oh, pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth, that I am meek and gentle with these butchers. Thou art the ruins of the noblest man that ever lived in the tide of times. Over thy wounds now do I prophesy, which like dumb mouths do ope their ruby lips to beg the voice and utterance of my tongue. Domestic fury and fierce civil strife shall encumber all the parts of Italy. Blood and destruction shall be so in use, and dreadful objects so familiar, that mothers shall but smile when they behold their infants quartered with the hands of war. And Caesar's spirit, ranging for revenge, with Ate by his side, come hot from hell, shall within these confines in a monarch's voice cry havoc! And let slip the dogs of war, that this foul deed shall smell above the earth like carrion men groaning for burial.
Wow, yeah.
And thus I shall say, a hero is born but once, but a coward is born and dies each day. Though the things in sours.
See, I told you he could do
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare.
I shall be.
To be or not to be.
I don't even know if that's a good.
I ask myself that every time I get ready to do a stunt.
Everybody thinks that's Macbeth. I don't know.
Am I going to die today?
1563, Macbeth. No,
but I started out doing a lot of theater in L.A. I did the Blackfriars Shakespeare Company.
Oh, you did Black Theater? Black Underground Theater?
No, not Black Underground Theater. The Blackfriars. It was a Shakespeare company. And founded 2 theater companies, 2 Roads Theater and Theater 3 with Justine, Jason, and Kent Bateman. And I was in the shortest play ever in Hollywood with Jason Bateman. Wow. It was called The 101st. And I was playing a blind vendor who was a witness in this thing where it was about the 100 poorest families in New York City, and we were the 101st poorest, and the 100 poorest got a free all expense paid Christmas, and so we were like the 101st, so we didn't quite make the cut, right?
Yeah.
And so we had this 85-year-old woman who was the grandmother of the family, and instead of a wheelchair, we had her in a shopping cart, right? So opening night. The music is playing, the lights go down, they wheel the old woman out on the stage to put her on her mark for the opening scene, and somebody took the glow tape off the front edge of the stage, and they wheeled her into the front row. So we're in the dark, and we hear, ah, crash, and all this noise, and everybody's freaking out. The lights come up, and the old lady's in the front row underneath the grocery cart. We're like, oh no. So the movie opened and closed before the lights came up on opening night. It was over. It was done because we couldn't find an 85-year-old understudy to play the part. So
that is so funny.
Yeah.
So John, what do you think's the hardest gag you've ever done? I mean, the toughest gag.
Hardest thing I ever did was getting married. That was tough.
Get married?
Yeah.
Well, not as hard as the divorce, but you know,
he's a comedian too.
The same. I don't know. Probably the when I did the fall on Walker, when I did the window crash on Walker Texas Ranger, I had to do a backwards high fall out of a window at the UPN building downtown, and we were in the interior atrium, and the ceiling was glass, and the floor was black onyx, and it was night, and the airbag was black. So when I came out the window, I had never done a tempered glass window crash before, and with tempered glass, if you're doing a high fall with glass going through a window, you use tempered glass because it breaks in little tiny pieces. If you use candy glass, it breaks like plate glass, so it'll run you through. If you land on it, it'll cut a hole in your airbag before you get there. Unfortunately, it's impossible to get to the airbag before the glass does. Yeah. So you want to make sure it's in little tiny pieces, so it's not going to cut the bag, right? And not going to cut you. I got a few stitches, but I had never done a window crash, and my first window crash through tempered glass was from 65 feet, going backwards with a half twist into the airbag. Okay, with an explosion, with a Claymore mine blowing me out the window. So I had an explosion in my face blowing me backwards, and I had to go out the window. So the thing with tempered glass is you have an explosive on the glass that pops it. It breaks the glass before you hit it, so you don't have any resistance, right?
Okay.
Well, that means you have to rely on somebody else to push the button at the right time. Okay, which is something that kind of plays with your head, because it's like, okay, I bounced off tempered glass before. It sucks. When you hit the window and bounce off, and you look at the effects guy, and he's like,
sorry,
what happened? Sorry, dude.
Yeah.
And so I came out the window. My adrenaline was cranking so hard that I came out the window, and I was going to do a 3/4 backflip with a half twist into the bag. Well, I did my backflip, and I came around, and I was looking at the window I just came out of. I had gone up. My hips went up, and I rotated. And I was looking at the window. I'm like, where the?
What?
And I'm like, so I had to throw another backflip to get around to be in the right position when I came into the bag. And at that point, I got completely disoriented because of the black floor and the black ceiling, and everything looked the same. So I didn't know where I was, but my autopilot kind of kicked in, and I came into the bag and was twisting with my hands like this, and I turned. And I'm laying in the bag like this, and Entertainment Tonight and Hollywood's Greatest Stunts were both there filming.
Oh, wow.
They were doing a special on fathers and sons in the film business, and they were doing a special on Chuck Norris and his son, Eric, who was the stunt coordinator. And it just happened to be the night I was doing this big high fall, right? Wow. So I'm laying in the airbag like this, and the paramedic comes in, and they're trying to vacuum all the glass off of me, and I'm going like this because I'm trying to close my ears and my nose and my eyes to keep the glass out. And I don't know about you, but I make funny faces when I try to close my ears. Okay, so I was laying there, and they're shooting down on me, from Entertainment Tonight video, and me laying in the bag, and I'm laying there, and the paramedic comes up. He says, "How you doing?" I said, "I feel good. I can feel my fingers and my toes. I feel okay." He says, "Anything else?" He said, "Well, I got a little muscle spasm in my back from throwing that second flip." He said, "Don't move." So what do you mean don't move? He says, "We got to take you out on a board." I'm like, "No, man, you got to let me walk out. We got Entertainment Tonight. Hollywood's Greatest Stunts here. I got to walk out of the bag." He's like, "No, we're taking you. If you got anything going on in your back, we're taking you off." I'm like, "Come on, man, you got to let me walk out." He says, "You going to argue with me and tell me how to do my job? Because I don't tell you how to do your job." And I said, "All right." I was like, "Come on, man, you got to let me." I went like that, and my hands were covered in blood. And I went, "I guess I'm going for a ride anyway, huh?" Because I had cut my head and the backs of my hands on the glass when I came into the bag. And Entertainment Tonight airs our segment and shows my high fall and says, "When Hollywood stunts go wrong." And my wife's getting all these phone calls from people. "Is he dead? Did he die? Is he okay?" And she's like, "No, he's fine." So and my phone stopped ringing because people thought I died. So I had to call Entertainment Tonight. We had to have them come back out, shoot a retraction, and apologize for. I said, "Look, you blow backwards out of a 6-story window and do a 1.5 with a half twist into an airbag and live, and tell me where it went wrong." I'm like, "Give me a break. It's like, it's glass. I'm landing in a pile of glass. I'm going to get cut. It's part of the deal."
Well, it is media after all
now. It's why they're paying me a lot of money to do what I do, because other people don't like to get cut by glass. I don't know.
Get a fancy title, and the consequences will come later. That's pretty much how media works.
Wow.
So anyway, we got the
after
apology out of them, and that was all good. And or Hollywood's Greatest Stunts made it look great, and they were awesome. So it was fun. But that was probably the roughest.
Sounds
that was
scary and exciting at the same time.
That was the only time in my career I ever went to the hospital in 35 years.
Wow.
And I got like 17 stitches, 4 at a time. 4 here, 3 there, a couple on the top of my head. Oh, and by the way, if you ever have to get stitches in a deep cut, just tell them to stitch it up. Forget about the Novocaine, because the Novocaine hurts more than the stitches.
I believe it.
Stick it in there. What are you doing?
I had a sheet of glass fall on my head before and cut my little muscle. I'm like, I'm totally right there with you. Stitches is fine.
Yeah, because your brain already turned off the pain sensors. You don't
forget the
so
Novocaine.
Interesting.
So I would say that would be the hardest one, definitely. Just because of the newness of the glass.
I think the toughest one was when I was in Israel on a movie called No Way Out, Jeff Speakman. And then I had to do the same gag for Frank Grillo. It was a helicopter. Actually, it's on my stunt demo reel, Mark D'Alessandro, YouTube stunt demo reel. Anyway, the helicopter had to land on top of a bus where the terrorists had kidnapped the people. This is in Israel. And I had to jump from the helicopter to the top of the bus, which then, after that, ensued a fight, and I had coming through the back there. So the wind was blowing, and the helicopter came in, and I had to go, and I had to jump from the helicopter to there. Well, it was late in the day. They didn't have time to put a cable on. If something went wrong, they'd just take off and it'd be on the cable.
Yeah.
So I came in. I'm like, trying to look like Jeff Speakman, like this cool. And as I jumped, a gush hit, and it was a Bell helicopter. So it didn't, the weight was very touchy. So as I jumped off, it pushed me out. And on my reel, I have a very strong faith in God. I would say a lot of stunt guys, including John, we can't say what we do. I think like the guy Eddie Murphy, whatever, the famous war hero, his faith was in God.
That wasn't Eddie Murphy. That's the comedian, black guy.
No, Murphy something, whatever his name is. You know what his name is. Anyway, he has.
One of the Murphys
He has. I said something Murphy.
He knows what he meant.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Anyway,
Yeah.
the opposite
Murphy,
of Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy.
I don't think he is. Anyway, but I swear, as I jumped off, I felt something push me back in because the bus and the helicopter were going, at least 25, 30 miles an hour for the helicopter. And I felt something push me back in, and because you could see in the reel when I went off, and I landed on top of it. So that was pretty scary. But I would say one of the toughest stunts I ever did is when I got fired and hired and yelled at by Stallone and got fired, and I had a hit because I said, we're going to do this gag. We're going to pull up. We're going to do a Texas switch or a rowdy route where I'm going to pull up and you're going to get out of the car like you're me. And then we're going to do a big sequence. The tunnel's going to blow up. It's called Daylight, the movie. It's going to flood. This guy's going to do that. It's in the script. He wrote the script, so he knew it was going to happen. But then we explained what the action was going to be. And lunchtime, we put the guy on fire. Well, I slid up, and the guy on fire was like totally, not just a light fire, he was really on fire. And the first thing going back, he said, if I get burnt, you're fired. You know what I think? I'm already getting a lot of beating on this show. You said, if I get burnt, you're fired. And I'm like, no, you're not going to get burnt, Si. You could do this. We could do it in cuts. The director wants to do it in one take, but I'm telling you, you're going to be a hero. It's going to be right. You're going through, it's like Scorsese. You're going to go right through and do the whole thing. It's going to look great. They got a camera. Entertainment Tonight was there. Back to Entertainment Tonight. The Italian press was there. And Sly's like doing this big gag. and it had to be him.
Yeah.
Because it was him the whole time. What's the guy's name? Ocean's 11. He has the camera on the guy the whole time. Like 1917. Anyway, it's one shot deal. So I slid up. He jumps out. The guy's like on fire. I'm like, I'm fired. I'm done. So this is the worst stunt. Now I get cliffhanger falling off the mountain, being around explosions. I can go on and on. I lost it. But anyway.
When you're talking about the helicopters, you got to keep in mind that 85% of all film fatalities are helicopter related.
Helicopters.
Yeah. That was pretty.
And when I was doing Home Fries and I was being chased by that Cobra attack helicopter, I'm driving a pickup truck.
Oh, yeah.
I got a helicopter on top of me. I'm looking out my windshield, seeing the rotors from the helicopter.
Yep.
Right? I'm 70 miles an hour. I'm thinking, if this guy crashes, this is just a great big Cuisinart, man. I'm done.
Yeah.
That was
wow.
But I didn't find out that statistic until after I did that movie, and then I was like, oh, okay.
Might have been a good thing.
Good to know. I spent a lot of time around helicopters.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
my.
Wow.
So we were talking about a couple of things about real life and your stuntman career where it saved your life. Would you shine some light on that?
Where where that being in this business saved my career.
Right,
Doing
like
it.
Just knowing
knowing
what to
how
do.
to
Yeah, oh yeah,
do.
just
Situation, yeah.
recently. I have a tire track on my leg. I got hit bicycling with my godson.
Wow.
Of all things, I mean,
Yeah.
I've been fortunately not injured. John, also, if you rehearse, you work at it like an athlete, and you practice. That's one thing we believe in. You really have to.
You know
Yeah,
you got to know
right.
your limitations, know where you're
And-
going to say
and,
no. But the hardest
I-
word for a stuntman to say is no.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I was
I'm sure.
bicycling, and
Waving all that
I
money
felt
in
like
your
I was
face.
in a movie. A car pulled in front of me, and it hit. He waved at me to go, and then I went, and he decided to hit me. So I was like, well, I better save the bike. I think I'll be all right because I sort of know how to do a car hit. Next thing you know, I threw the bike and I spun around, and I was under both wheels, and both wheels ran over my tire, or ran over my legs as they were peeling out. Luckily, it was just a miracle. I felt the car sort of. I know this sounds crazy, but I just says, please, Jesus. And I felt the car kind of like pick up as he was peeling out.
Yeah.
Because he realized he messed up.
Yeah.
You know, he went. So I would say because I knew to get really, instead of like freak out, like
Right.
a lot of people freeze out. And also, my dad was like a Marine hero. He's like the real Rambo.
Yeah.
A lot of that might be genetic. And then in slow motion, I just saw everything happening. And I sort of crawled. Otherwise, it would have went over, my chest or whatever. So luckily, I got out of that pretty good, and I had a miraculous healing.
Wow.
You mentioned
I know
the
how to
slow
heal.
motion.
Yeah.
It's like
You're like-
it's amazing when we're doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People ask me what goes through your mind when you're doing a big high fall, and I tell them, and they're like, how could all that possibly go through your mind in that short period of time? You know,
Yeah.
because it
The
takes
whole
less.
watch.
It's
Yeah.
less than a second from 50 feet to the
Yeah.
ground.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay, but
Yeah.
it seems like it takes a month to get there. You jump
Yeah.
off and it's like, oh, get me in the bag. Oh God, please, I
Just
hope I'm
please
on
let me
target.
land in
Let
the
me
right
land in
spot.
the bag, and I pray
Yeah.
that bag doesn't screw up or something doesn't happen.
Yeah.
When I hit I build all my own equipment, and one of the things that I built was an airbag after my best friend Paul died doing a high fall because he hit the airbag and the air. He hit the edge of the bag and it went like that, and it dumped him. The
Wow.
air went to the other end. And
Yeah.
there's got to be a better way to build these things. And he and I had been building and testing airbags for years before that. And I kept telling him that his design, that it was an old school design. And it's like, we need to refine this. This has to be made better.
Yeah.
And he died before we got around to doing it. But I had a design that I wanted to build. I couldn't get anybody to build it. So I bought a sewing machine, taught myself how to sew, and put together a 20
for
foot
you.
by
And
20
it's
foot
a
Tango
Wow.
airbag.
airbag.
I've used your
And
airbag.
but it's
Great
got
airbag.
chambers in it that make it so that it always empties from the center out. So no matter where you land on the bag, it rolls you to the middle.
Yeah.
So you can't dump on the outside.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it works like a charm. But the thing that scared me to death was the first time I hit it from 100 feet on Walker, Texas Ranger. I came off a building downtown in the old police department downtown, and I hit it, and I thought it malfunctioned because I didn't feel anything.
Oh, wow.
I was gonna hit the ground.
Yeah.
I was like,
And it
oh,
worked.
it worked. Okay, cool. So
Yeah. Wow.
A lot of times you can go from zero to hero, like back to daylight. I got 20
or from
stories
hero to
like
zero. That's
That. Yeah,
happened.
zero to zero, zero to hero.
That happened before.
Yeah, and then he got burnt. And Entertainment Tonight was, and I was fired in front of everybody. He was yelling my name, D'Alessandro. Anyway, he walked up to the stunt coordinator and fired him, and I was hiding in the car.
You're like, no.
Yeah, like I'm gonna hide.
Yeah.
And the team guys, he'll cool off. Well, he's hot. He's got
Literally.
singed.
Yeah.
He got his hair singed. Everything. It was like the worst day of my
Yeah.
life.
Wow.
I got another story too, but I'll tell that one later.
I do want to ask a question. So, what would you say has been maybe like your most favorite thing that you've done? Like maybe your most favorite show that you've done stunt work on?
My favorite show by far was Walker, Texas Ranger. I had so much fun on that show. But I came in on the last 5 seasons. So they had already been shooting for 3 years before I got here.
Okay.
And they were a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
They knew what everybody needed. I was working with my friends that I came up with in the business. It was like old home week because everybody left LA and came here to work on the show. So I was in LA, like, where'd everybody go?
Yeah.
You know,
Wow. Yeah.
and then Greg called me and said, hey, we really need you on this show because they're doing motion picture level stunts on this TV show, and there's nobody in Dallas who has the equipment or the skill sets to do what needs to be done. And they asked me if I'd come out, and I'm like, well, yeah, I guess, and came down here and just found out I could buy a house, and not lose everything. And it was, I was trying to find a house in LA, and we couldn't find a shack for less than $250,000, and that was 25 years ago. So,
awesome.
but working on that show, working with Chuck and Eric and just everybody on that show was so much fun to work with, and there was almost never a tension, there was never a uncomfortable feeling on the set. And Chuck was amazing. In 5 years of working on the show, never saw him accidentally kick anybody or hit anybody. I did see him kick one guy on purpose, and that was funny.
I saw him kick somebody on purpose because the guy spit on him.
Oh, really? I missed that.
That's another story.
Yeah.
No, this guy was like a friend of the family.
He
was like a dentist,
him,
right? And he wanted to know what it was like to do a fight scene with Chuck Norris. So Aaron hired him and put him in a fight scene, and all he had to do was take a little kick to the stomach and fall down. And Chuck was working on first unit, doing his acting, and then he came into second unit to do a little quick fight scene with this guy. And all he had to do was kick him and fall down. And the first time he goes, all right, I'm just going to tap you, and you sell it, make it look like I kicked you really hard, and you fall down. So he does the kick, and the guy just stands there. And Chuck's like, no, you got to sell it. You got to make it look like I'm kicking you really hard. Right. And he's like, oh, okay. So he does it again. He taps him, and he's just barely tapping him. He just does the same thing. And Chuck's like, no, man, you got to sell it. And he's like, no, go ahead and kick me. He says, I'm not going to kick you. He says, no, come on. I want to know what it's like to be kicked by Chuck Norris. And everybody on the set just went,
no.
You don't want to know what that's like, man. That's professional fighters who don't want to know what that's like. And so the third time he does it again, and the guy just stands there. So all of a sudden, Chuck just gets this weird look on his face, and he looks over at the camera guy, goes, "Are you ready?" And the camera guy goes, "Yeah." And he said, "Action!" And Chuck turned around and lifted this guy up with a spin back kick, lifted him up by the solar plexus, and threw him across the room. Goodness. And he slammed into the wall, and he crumpled down on the ground, and he's laying on the ground going, and Eric Norris, the stunt coordinator, runs over to him and goes, "That was awesome! You got another one in you?" And he's like,
almost
"No,
taped it.
no."
Another take.
Yeah, that was the only time I ever said, because Chuck was like, "I gotta go. I don't have time for this."
But
Okay,
his
you
bells
ready?
were ringing.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
But the thing that was a miracle was that he picked up a 190-pound man with his foot, tossed him across the room, and didn't permanently hurt him.
Yeah,
he didn't break his ribs or anything. He just picked him up and tossed him.
Wow.
Unbelievable. The guy was he is a true master. He's one of the best martial artists I've ever worked with. He wouldn't do a fight scene with anybody on that show, an intricate fight scene with anybody who wasn't at least a black belt, or at least a first-degree black belt.
I'd have to go with Mel Gibson. Sly Stallone is probably,
Oh, come on, you don't have.
This is my job, but
you don't have
I
to
would
do that
say
anymore, Mark.
genius. Mel Gibson was amazing.
I like Mel Gibson.
On When We Were Soldiers, and playing that part and being there in the slaughter because it was a real place, Laoming, wherever the slaughter was, and the way they did it, and the way you were there. Actually, a lot of guys got hurt on that show. It was like such a great.
Which one was this?
When We Were Soldiers.
When We Were Soldiers. Yeah, I like Mel Gibson's movies.
And he's actually
The Christ is one of his movies, right?
Oh yeah, awesome movie.
Makes me cry every single time. It just makes me hurt watching it.
Yeah, you mentioned that a lot of guys got hurt on that, and what I find is that a lot of guys they won't take that risk on certain films. But then there's movies like When We Were Soldiers and what was the one about the Soul Survivor? Soul Survivor, the guy that survived the Afghanistan, his whole unit got killed, and they had to jump down the cliff to get away. It was either get caught by the Afghans or jump over a cliff, and these guys jumped over a cliff, and they got hurt. And the stunt guys, they said, we can do this with cables and ropes, and we can fake it. And all the stunt guys, the guy who actually did it was standing there. And they were like, "Nope, we're going to honor this guy, and we're going to do what they did."
Wow.
And they jumped over the cliff and broke legs and broke arms and broke
my
ribs, and they
goodness.
got hurt. But it was that's what they,
Yeah.
it was like we want the audience to see what this man did.
Yeah.
You know what I
Wow.
mean? And there's certain times where you just, it's like, okay, I'm going to get hurt, but I got to honor this person, And
Like cliffhanger, you're going off that clip. We want to see it. All of a sudden, you're in the moment, and you're like,
Here
okay,
we
I'll
go.
just go halfway. Next thing you know, you're going. You're going over the cliff.
Oh my goodness.
But, we both put it into perspective.
Yeah.
We're making a movie.
Right.
It's not worth breaking a fingernail over.
Well,
You know what I mean?
Good point. That's good.
Because there's a bunch of people sitting in a dark room, so a bunch of
Right.
people can sit in a room and go, wow,
Eating
that was cool.
popcorn.
Yeah, you broke
and,
the finger.
And,
Yeah.
and you broke your arm for that.
Yeah.
My best friend died. Why?
Right.
So a bunch of people could sit in their living room and watch a horrible TV show that they only shot 3 episodes before it got canceled. I
Right.
mean,
Wow.
it's like, give me a break. It's not worth it.
Yeah, we're certainly going to have a different perspective about movies now when we see those stunts, and we're going to be, are they in there?
Yeah.
Right? We have to go back to the list. and
Most of the
check out
time, you
some of
won't be
these.
able to see us.
No, I know, but we'll be wondering
Yeah,
if you're back there.
It's like
had a part
Cord
in it.
showed me one of his movies, one of the tracks that he has. Cord Newman, he's in LA right now.
yeah, amazing stuff.
Amazing stuff. It's
Yeah.
like one of the first videos he showed me being under the truck, driving out of the flames, jumping off of, I'm like, how? In one of them, I'm pretty sure where he's on top of the train
Yes.
and jumping off of the train while the train is going the same direction. I'm like, how many things can possibly go wrong
A
with
lot
that?
of things can go wrong in those scenarios.
Especially
And
on
that-
a train. You
and that-
cannot stop
yeah,
the
That's our
freaking train.
job, is to look at those scenarios and say what can
What
go
can go
wrong,
wrong?
and then try to figure out everything that can go wrong and avoid those things. But
You should have done that in some of your dates.
Yeah,
Or your wife.
yeah,
No,
yeah. I should have done that with my
What could
marriage.
go
But that's
wrong?
all okay. I'm sorry.
That's it there.
I didn't say that.
But,
That's a whole nother
That's a
story.
whole
nother
no-
show.
whole nother
Hey,
story.
We'll save it
how
for
about
another
that show where
podcast.
the elephant ate you? Remember the elephant ate you?
The elephant ate
I never
you.
got eaten by an elephant.
Yeah. I did. I got
I
eaten by
never
an
got
elephant.
eaten by an elephant.
You know what? I just walked around until I got pooped out.
Eaten by.
I can tell jokes. I better stop.
Yeah, let's
Well,
not
this
get
is turning
started on the
comedy.
jokes.
Don't get me started.
I tried to.
He
I
said, I've never got eaten by an
I
elephant.
tried to diffuse it. I really did. I tried to stop it, but once the ball gets rolling, there's
the
no.
thing about stunts, though,
Yeah.
it's like, when you die, everybody else feels your pain. It's kind of like being stupid.
Oh my god.
Don't get me going. I'll stop. If you want more, I'll give them to you.
And this is why I told you need a guy with a tranquilizer dart sitting off the set. Just
How do
put a little,
you, how do you say?
put a little dart in him, put him to sleep, and be okay.
I had a fist fight with Sly on the top of a roof in Israel, in Afghanistan. I was hired and fired on that one. We actually went at it with Mossad there. He again had a hit on his life. This is the latter Rambo. And I was sitting there in a Russian Spetsnaz unit. I said, Sly, come up. Clotheslines were big then. You go like that. Your body keeps going. And you go up.
Yeah.
It's like horrible. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to look good because I want to show up for these English stunt guys. I want to show them Americans are better.
Show them how it's done.
Show it.
Yeah.
And plus, I'm
The
doubling.
Americans are
I
better
just
than the
want
guys
to
who
impress.
invented James Bond. Yeah, okay.
And plus, it was like my 4th or 5th show. Yeah. So anyway, I said, put out your arm. I'll come in. I'll do a clothesline. I'll throw up, go down, and then you crack my neck, and then you keep going because you're going after the prisoners. You remember Rambo, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's on film. You could watch the whole thing. Rambo 3, Afghanistan.
all of them.
When we were friends with the Afghanistan, remember? We were like,
The
now
Afghans.
we were saving them against Russia. Now we want to.
Damn Russians.
It's amazing.
The Russians are everywhere,
We were
man.
saving them.
That
against-
must
Freaking
break
troublemakers.
you.
But
Yeah,
now,
I know,
now
right?
we're friends with the Russians against Afghanistan.
We need
Yeah.
to be friends.
Shooting Sandra
period.
Bullock's partner. And
So I was a Russian specimen. I even had a little dog. I said, Nemiesto. I had a guard dog, which means into your place, right? Nemiesto?
Na место.
Nemiesto. I was like, for some reason, I always played Russians. I don't know. But I ended up.
I'm so sorry, man.
I love Russian women. Actually, you're gorgeous. You really are.
Thank you.
You really are. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, so He goes like that. He closes.
You want us to leave?
I smash down.
It's all right. There's plenty of room here.
Hey, we don't. Hey, come on. This is.
We're
live.
keeping him focused.
Okay.
We got it. We got it.
So I land and he trips. He has a shirt off. He's all pumped up, like in great shape and everything. And he trips and falls. And he looks like a yo-yo. I mean, it looks bad. And he's like, I said, all you had to do is put your arm out. That's all I said. And I would have done everything else. You didn't have to slam me. And he goes, well, I told you, you didn't do it right. And I said, Sly, all I said, put your arm out, I'll sell it. That's what you do, right? You don't actually clothesline. He was mad. He clotheslined me. Love-hate thing got going on there. And I got up and I said, all you had to do is put your arm out, man. So they're like cutting. He's still trying to break my neck. And it's over.
It's like, dude, you like 5 takes.
It's 110 degrees.
That must have been the day I told him that Mark was sleeping with his girlfriend.
So we
we're going to commercial
so
break.
he got up and he goes, and I'm like, I told you just put your arm out, like now. And anyway,
You don't listen.
So he went at me. Yeah, he went at me. I had the knee pads on, I had the specimen uniform. I was feeling really a little rough at the time. So, because I just got hurt too. I was in pain. He really hurt me.
Oh, your adrenaline is going.
So he goes at me, and I sprawl. John used to be a wrestler. You know how to sprawl. If somebody comes, you just go out. He went down to the ground. Mossad, his bodyguards, the whole set. This is Sylvester Stallone, Rambo. This is like a $10 million actor. And I said, oh my God, my career's over. That's another career over. So I said, what would you do?
It's amazing he's still working.
So what I did is I got under him, right? I don't even know how I did it. Somehow he was under me and I got under him and I made it look like, I said, go ahead, hit me. I'm like, hit me, and I'm pulling his head, hit me, and I'm pulling his hair. He goes, bang, 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 and he starts beating me. I shouldn't even talk about this. It'll never work again. Maybe not more. Anyway,
You can have another moment.
It was
you do realize you can make a lot of money with this footage.
Afghanistan prison.
Just fuzz my face out. So
Hot tar Afghanistan
Little
prison,
square.
right? And he's scraping his
knuckles.
on that shit. So now he's I'm like, and now that's my son. I'm like, like he beat me up really bad. Like, I winked at this Mossad guy. The Mossad guy's like, that's all right.
My favorite.
I earned respect with the Mossad guys because they were protecting him from Khomeini.
So awesome.
So anyway, so I got fired. He was in the Dead Sea, and he's like, and he's yelling my name because he's in the Dead Sea. Because he has these cuts all over him. So
he's in the salt water screaming.
So anyway, the next day I got hurt really bad. I got picked up by a helicopter, a Puma, and landed on my head. So he felt bad for me. So I was fired, but then I got rehired when I got hurt, and I landed on my head because the Puma has so much. So as he shot me, I threw my legs up because I said, "Let me do this so I can get in with him again. I'll get shot by him." The Pumas, those big helicopters that look like big Scorpion, but they have so much pull. Whoa, so he's shooting me. I thought that would be cool. Man, Sly's shooting me, and then I may double him on the long shot, whatever. Then I could, and as he went like that, and as the Puma took off, I went and it picked me up, and I landed on my head. So he felt bad. So I kept my job.
So you kept your job?
Landing on my head.
Got you a job.
And getting beat up and it was great.
That's so awesome.
I remember when we were on Tango and Cash, one of my favorite stories about Sly, we were standing there and we were working with a whole bunch of fighters because it was the laundry room fight scene where they get thrown down in the laundry sack and everybody, all the inmates beat them up in the prison.
Yeah.
And Benny the Jet Urquidez was working on that in that scene. And I don't know if you guys know who Benny the Jet is, but he was at the time seven-time world champion kickboxer. He's like he's legendary, right? And Sly wanted to meet Benny, so he walked over and started talking to Benny, right? And they were having a conversation, and then Sly walked away, and one of the ADs walks up to Benny and says, you know, Mr. Stallone doesn't like it when people talk to him while he's working. You really need to avoid talking to Mr. Stallone, you know. And Benny's like, I was just standing here, and he came over and started talking to me, you know. And so 10 minutes later, Stallone comes out on the set. Who told Benny the Jet Urquidez that I can't talk to him? I talk to anybody I want, and Benny the Jet sure as hell talks to anybody he wants.
Oh my goodness.
Everybody looked at the AD and they're like, him, it was him. And he looks at the guy and says, you're fired. And he walks off. He's like, oh my
That is too
God.
funny.
Wow.
Unbelievable. He's like, nobody tells Benny the Jet who we can talk to.
So before we close out, I did have a conversation with you. You mentioned something about your charity that you do for children.
Mm-hmm.
Could you please expand on that and let us know what
Sure.
it is that you guys specialize in?
Yeah, we work with a group called, it's a 501c3 charity called Movie Institute, and Keith Duncan is the president of the organization, and I've been working with him for about 20 years now. And we teach life skills through the art of motion picture production. So
awesome.
the kids come in and we teach them all different types of movie making skills. Every summer for the last 20 years we've done Camp Hollywood, where the kids come in for 5 days. Yeah, up in Frisco. The kids come in for 5 days and they shoot a 5-minute short film and a 30-second commercial, and they're broken up into teams. And it's real world. They write it, produce it, direct it. They do all the acting, all the
awesome.
camera
Yeah,
work, all the
that's
lighting. They do everything. We just have mentored professionals from every discipline who come in and make sure that they get the job done and make sure they know how to use the equipment, and it happens. And these kids come up with some of the most amazing stories.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but they have to, if they want to direct, they have to bring in their own, you know, a reel of their own stuff that they've directed. You can't just walk in and be a director without showing the team that you're capable of doing it. They've got to pitch. If they want to be the writer, they have to explain, you know, and all the kids vote on who's going to be doing what, and everybody does. It's amazing. We have kids who come in there and they think they want to be actors, you know, and then they get a camera in their hand.
Yeah.
And they're the cameraman for the commercial or something, and all of a sudden they don't want to be actors anymore. They
They
just
want
want
to
to be the cameraman.
Yeah.
We've had parents come up to us because we do this as a real world experience.
Mm-hmm.
We don't sugarcoat anything. We don't you know, if you're crying on the set, we take you aside and we say, well, you know, this doesn't happen on a film set unless you're the you know, leading lady and you got a problem. But this doesn't happen.
No divas.
You know, yeah, there's no divas here. We got a job to do, and you got to do it. And we've had parents come up to us afterwards and thank us for their child deciding that they don't want to do movies, because they realize how hard it is to make movies, and how hard a job it is, and how difficult it can be. And they're like, you know, we tried to tell them that it wasn't for them, but they just wouldn't listen. And then they come in and they do this, and they realize they had a good time.
Right,
but
it's
it
not-
wasn't
yeah.
easy. It's not something that they're passionate about.
Right.
And film work, just like this, don't do it if you're not passionate about it. God gives everybody certain abilities and certain talents, and not everybody's cut out to do everything, you know.
But on the other hand, there have been people that have left your school. Like my daughter does the Mustang Million, where they take wild Mustangs that are either going to be butchered or killed, and they compete with them. And she went from being bullied in school to like, wow, if I can, I said, look, if you can handle that 800-pound Mustang, don't let these kids bully you. 'Cause she's like 4 different races.
Yeah.
So they, you know, the people where we live, like, hey, who's this, you know, who's this,
Yeah.
what are you, Mexican or whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
but I've seen kids leave that class, not the same kid, especially when you put them doing the fight, having to fight 4 or 5 people and making it look like they took out 4 or 5 people.
Yeah, I mean, we have the stunt section that we teach the kids how the action is done. We teach them, you know, they rotate, the teams rotate in, and one of them will do the technical day where they all learn about the different technical equipment, and then they'll do a writing day with a writer who sits down and explains to them how to write a script, what it does, you know, how it all works. And these kids, some of them just really come out of their shell, you know. You just, you know, the kids won't even hardly talk. All of a sudden, they're in front of the camera, and their lights, the light bulb comes on, and they're like, "Yeah, okay, this is great." You know, we had one kid who had autism, And the parents, you know, the parents of this autistic kid were all concerned that we wouldn't be able to deal with him. And I mean, he was on my team, and I just treated him like all the other kids.
Yeah.
And he was awesome. He ended up getting an award for best actor.
Wow.
You know,
very cool.
and
yeah,
it was,
wow.
you know what I mean. And his
Right.
parents were like, "Oh, you know, hovering over him." I'm like, "Okay, first of all, go away.
Yeah.
We got this, you know,
Yeah.
because they just
No
the
helicopter
helicopter parenting, the helicopter
Yes.
parenting's got
That
to go. You know?
removed.
But I think when you treat kids like adults
Yeah.
with respect,
Yeah.
they get it, you know.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and when they're screwing around and they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, we call them out on it, you know.
Right.
And it's we don't
100%.
play around. We say, look, you have to treat this like this is a multi-million-dollar production. There's a lot of money on the line.
Yeah.
Every hour on a film set, you're looking at on an average film set, medium budget film, you're looking at like $14,000 to $15,000 an hour minimum.
Wow.
And that's just that. I mean, that's like
Yeah.
that's a lot of money when you're shooting 8 hours a day.
Yeah, and you can get hurt. It's life and death, you know.
Yeah, especially with the
Plus,
stunt
you're
stuff.
wasting your parents' money and your time and money.
Well, yeah.
If you don't try.
But if you're on a film, you know as well as I do. If you punch somebody, if you punch the lead actor in the eye by accident, you give him a black eye. Okay, now you've just cost the production an hour every day where they've got to put makeup on his eye.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's $14,000 a day. You just cost that production. And God forbid, I mean, that's just the crew. Forget
Yeah.
about the fact that they're paying the actor like $30,000 an hour. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta
think about all that
think
stuff.
about the money. There's a lot of money involved in this and the stuff that we do. A lot of times you can't do it again. I did a commercial years ago for Miller Genuine Draft Light, and I was doubling Dennis Miller. And he was walking across the stage in front of this big ship's hull. And the ship's hull was made out of glass. The whole thing was made out of glass. So it was the flat edges here and then two pieces behind it going straight up, so that all you saw was the flat, but there were two more pieces behind each piece of glass. And it was this giant glass ship's hull. And he takes the bottle and he hits the ship, and the bottle doesn't break. The ship goes and shatters and falls down,
my
right?
gosh.
Well, if I moved, if I twitched, if I even reacted, 3 sticks of dynamite going off behind me, and I had to take 2 steps and plant myself and not move, not twitch, not react, because they were taking the sound out, so all you see is the ship shatter and fall down. So if I moved, it blew the shot. If I blow the shot, they got to rebuild that whole ship out of glass
Yeah, wow.
again and put all the explosives on the back of it and everything
Yeah.
else. And I asked the effects guy, where do I need to stand to be safe? He said, stand on this X and a big piece of glass will come right over your left shoulder.
Don't move.
Don't step to your left. I'm like, okay. And sure enough, I got a still shot of me standing there, and there's this huge piece of glass right here. It just came right over my shoulder. And I knew I was doing something screwy when I was standing on the stage, and I looked around, and the crew was 35 feet away behind plexiglass shields, and I was standing right in front of them. Wait a minute. Is this safe? You know, am I going to die?
Is this safe?
Yeah.
I think that was the question way when you started.
That's why I
Is
asked the
this
effects
safe?
guy, what's going to happen? Where do I need to stand, you know? Never, ever. That's rule 1 in the stuntman's business is never, ever, ever sleep with the special effects man's wife. Because he can make it look like an accident real easy.
That was the effects guy that put that guy on fire that didn't like Sly because, back to that story, because
they'll mess you up.
the drama that happens on sets, because guys are just, that's harder than stunt work. Especially when you're a coordinator or a second unit director and they go, do not let this actor get hurt. It's your responsibility to keep him safe.
Yeah,
That's your
and
job.
then they won't let you get a double
And he's
because
like, "Wait a
they can't
minute.
afford it." It's like, wait a minute.
I'm doing Rocky. I'm
guy
gonna
hurt.
fight. I'm gonna fight. The guy wants to fight. The light heavyweight guy. If he hits me one more time, Mark, I'm gonna hit him back. So I was like, I want to hit him. The producer goes, the director goes, if they get hurt, you're responsible.
See, that's the thing. As a stunt guy, when you're doing a fight
How do you-
scene,
how do you
okay, if you're doing a fight scene with another stunt guy, okay, first time he hits you, please don't hit me. Second time he hits you, please stop hitting me. The third time he hits you, you knock him out cold because he's doing it on purpose. Okay, there's no reason for them to hit you in a film fight.
Yeah.
The way we do the illusion, it's not. There's no reason to get hit. Now, if the actor hits you, I'm sorry, sir, I didn't mean to hit your fist with my face. Let's go again. Okay, you hit me again. Okay, I'm really sorry. I really didn't mean to hit you again with my face. Let's continue. It's always your fault if it's the actor because you cannot hit the actor.
What about that one story? I don't know if you want to expand on it, where you got stepped on.
Oh, with Steven Seagal? Oh yeah,
yeah,
Steven
he's-
Seagal. We were working on
Under Siege?
Mark for Death. It was Mark for Death, and I was playing a character who got shot and dies, and I died at the foot of a set of stairs in this club, and they were getting ready to shoot the next scene, and Steven Seagal had to walk down those stairs, and the stunt coordinator says, well, one of my guys died at the foot of those stairs, so you need to have something for him to step over. We'll throw some sandbags down there or something for him to step over. And Seagal says, no, I want the stunt guy down there. And the stunt coordinator's like, what, why? He says, I just want him down there, it's more realistic. And he's like, okay. And the whole time, Seagal had been hurting stunt guys. He broke one guy's arm. He put another guy's
goodness.
face in through a practical glass cabinet in the iMagnin store, like slammed his head through the glass. He wasn't supposed to. He was just supposed to throw him, and it was like he was hurting guys on purpose. And everybody was getting kind of fed up with it. And so I was fairly new at this point in the business. I'd only been on a couple of shows, and this guy, Conrad Palmisano, was the biggest stunt coordinator in Hollywood. And he says, go over there and lay down where you died. So I laid down the way I fell so that it would match when they edit together, right? And he says, no, roll over and turn the other way. And I said, but that's not going to match. And he says, roll over and turn the other way. I said, it's not going to match. I fell this way. He says, are you going to argue with me, or are you going to do what I'm telling you to do? And I'm like, well, it's not going to match. I'm copping an attitude with the biggest stunt coordinator in Hollywood. I'm such a freaking fool. And so I turn around and I lay down the other way, and Seagal comes walking down the stairs during the scene, and he steps with his heel of his cowboy boot and all 240 pounds right in the small of my back, and he grinds it into the bone in my spine and the small of my back. Then he steps down on the skin right here, and I didn't have any skin right here, and he grinds that into the ground with his other foot, and he walks off. I'm supposed to be dead, so I'm laying on the ground. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? Come to find out, I was never on camera.
Huh.
It was a cowboy shot from the thighs up. They just wanted to see him step over something, so I didn't have to be there. The stunt coordinator knew that, so he told me to turn around and roll over, because if I'd have laid the way I felt, he would have stepped on my groin. He would have done that to my crotch. So I was like, thank you for saving my life, And then about a week later, Seagal had been challenging Gene LeBell on the set. Gene LeBell is one of the only white men recognized by the Japanese Judo Association as a grandmaster, okay? He's a very, very dangerous individual. And Seagal kept saying, I can get out of your chokeholds, I can get out of your chokeholds. And Gene taught Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris how to do judo,
Don't do
okay?
that to Gene.
Yeah, you don't play with Gene. Gene's a dangerous man. And Seagal's like, I can get out of your chokeholds. And Gene's like, no, I don't want to play that game. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And finally, after he heard enough stunt guys, Gene's like, all right, let's do it. Let's do this thing. So he puts him in the chokehold, and he says, okay, on 3. And he says, 1, 2, 3. And Seagal slams him with his back fist, tries to hit him in the groin. And before he could get his hand to his groin, Gene went and dropped him out cold. And he messed his pants up and had to change his wardrobe.
The true definition of wardrobe
and to this day, Gene LeBell will deny that he ever did it. But we were there.
That's one of the best stunts.
Yeah, these have been some awesome stories. Awesome. Well, I think we got to wrap it up here.
All right. Well, thank you.
Hey, this has been a lot of fun. We could sit here for a while, I think. I think we really could.
We got 35 years
And
worth
we're
of
going to have to
stories.
get you guys on my other podcast, because I want to hear some more stories.
We need a part 2.
Yeah, we need part 2 will be on my other show, so we're going to definitely talk about that. So this has been awesome. So thank you for being on the show.
That was
Thank you.
amazing. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you for our viewers.
Thank you, beautiful.
As always, please don't forget to subscribe.
Subscribe.
It's like don't like.
Yeah, we
don't
want
like
you to
the
hit the
show at all.
subscribe.
It's like, please hit like, subscribe, please share, comment, and we, as always, we're looking forward to your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye.
See ya.